Ladies and gentlemen, it is hard to get a hold of the legendaries you need to get the job done. What's up, guys? It's Corrodor, keeping it tanky in Raid Shadow Legends, and today I thought I'd run through my thoughts on the best epic in each faction real quick. Not going to spend a whole lot of time in each kit, just going to give a quick rundown of why I think they're good. Up first, we got Stag Knight coming in. A recent pull on my account, I've heard about him being raved about how good he is for so long, and I only recently pulled him for the first time. He's got A1 2-time hitter, decreased speed. Fantastic. He's got an AoE, drop defense, and decrease attack. Fantastic skill, damage reduction, as well as increased damage dealt. On the passive, places increased accuracy on an ally for 1 turn each time the ally has a debuff resisted by an enemy. Niche passive, not really going to see it come into play, but he's a very strong, competent debuffer. Hold up, click the link in the description right now to get a free Uugo, as well as 2 more free epic champions as you level up. Here are the steps to get yours. Step 1, log out of Plarium Play on PC and uninstall. Step 2, click the link in the description and register with a brand new email. Step 3, launch Raid and complete the tutorial. Step 4, go to your inbox and claim your first champ. This is an amazing account start to Raid, so click the link and start now. For the High Elves, I am personally privy to the epic Scaramus. He's carried me in Faction Wars. He's carried me in restrictive content like Doom Tower and Cursed City. He is a fantastic epic. The A1, when booked, has a 90% chance of stealing 15% of the target's turn meter, has a 30% chance of placing a stun debuff if the target's turn meter is fully depleted by this skill. This is a fantastic A1 that synergizes very well with his A3. On the A2, he's got AoE, buff duration decrease, as well as a AoE decrease attack for 2 turns, 75% chance when booked. Fills this champion's turn meter by 10% for each buff that has this duration decreased. He is a turn meter vacuum. And then on the A3, has an AoE provoke on all enemies for 1 turn, and then places counterattack and continuous heal on this champion for 2 turns. Interesting note here is that on his A1, when he goes to steal that turn meter, they just took a turn on the counterattack. So he is going to have a much greater chance of placing that stun. He's HP based, very tanky, little slow, but that's okay. Scaramus, fantastic epic. Sacred Order, this is a tough one. There are several good champions for Sacred Order, but my choice is going to be Deacon Armstrong, specifically for a non-void champion. It gets a little harder if I think about the voids, so I chose not to. On the A1, he's got a 2-time hitter. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing a leech debuff for 2 turns. Fantastic for staying alive. On the A2, attacks all enemies, puts drop defense. Again, great way to up your damage. And then the A3 fills the turn meter of all allies by 15% and basically steals the turn meter of all enemies and gives it to all allies, and then grants an extra turn. It's on a 3-turn cooldown. He's got an all-battle speed aura just as strong as Fabian's. This guy can still be a menace in arena. He's great for Chimera. He's a very good, solid epic everywhere you go. Build this guy in Relentless, and I kid you not, I have had him go through his entire kit 3 times back to back. It's crazy. Up next, we got Barbarians. Very weak faction for epics. Honestly, an argument could be made for Haikatoon, but I'm going to go with Farkin the Fat here, simply because epics are more accessible, and a nearly full team ally attack with increased crit rate, increased crit damage is huge. The A2 attacks 1 enemy, will place 2 poisons and an HP burn, great for boss fights, as well as drop defense on the A1. Passive is actually kind of a downside. Helps keep him alive, but 20% of the damage he receives is spread across the entire team, so make sure you're not running him with any glass cannons. But he is fantastic for blender comps in arena, fantastic for Fire Knight, and fantastic for boss fights. Heading on over to the Ogren, we have Urgrim. Urgrim is a fantastic epic. Yes, she's void, but honestly, the Ogren are relatively weak on epics as well. She's got A1 2-time hitter. Each hit has a 45% chance of placing a poison when booked. She's got a full cleanse and a heal on a target ally, 3-turn cooldown. It's a nice heal, but a single target. And then she places 2 poisons on all enemies for 2 turns and places a continuous heal on all allies for 2 turns. Bit of a budget Badel Khazar in that situation. She's actually got a better speed aura than some of the legendaries in this game, coming in at 20% in all battles. Decent base speed, especially for an epic. Serviceable. Considered building her. Moving on over to the lizards, we have Venomage. Venomage is a fantastic damage dealer and causes a little bit of mitigation in certain situations. On the A1, it's 2-time hitter, destroys the target's max HP by 75% of the damage inflicted if they are under a heal reduction debuff. Each hit has a 50% chance of activating up to 2 poison debuffs on the target. Fantastic source of activation damage and fantastic for Scarab King because that is enemy max HP destruction on the A1 if the target is under heal reduction. Run her with the right champions or have her in the right build, that won't be a problem. The A2 attacks one enemy, has a 100% chance of placing drop defense, will also place decrease attack if the target is under a poison debuff. This is a fantastic move, single target version of what Stagnite brings. On the A3, AoE heal reduction, which is where we needed it for 3 turns, also places 2 poison debuffs. Fantastic damage, fantastic healing denial, and then on the passive, enemies under heal reduction inflict 15% less damage. Accuracy in all battles by 45, good epic, amazing in certain content. For the Skinwalkers, I think it's Fane, to be honest, for generalized content. We got an A1 2-time hitter, 50% chance when booked of stealing 5% of the target's turn meter, so that's a 10% turn meter steal. The A2 places 2 poisons and decrease attack, and then the A3 triple hitter, first hit places drop defense, second hit places weaken, third hit heals this champion 4% of their max HP for each debuff on the target, up to 40%. Fantastic epic. She's a clan boss queen. I've seen her hit hard in arena. Fantastic single target epic. Orcs, we got my buddy Tagoar. Fantastic reviver. Increased defense on the ally with the lowest HP on the A1. The A2, AoE increased speed. Only source of AoE increased speed in the Orc faction. Mythical, legendary, you name it. Tagoar is the only source of AoE increased speed in this faction. Then heals all allies by 15% of this champion's max HP. Revive all dead allies with 30% HP, and then places a shield equal to 20% of this champion's max HP. 5-turn cooldown, little long, but that's okay. And then damage reduction for all allies with 50% or less HP by 10%. Fantastic survivability. Demon Spawn. Overall, it's got to be Allure. Gotta be Allure. You get her early on, and a lot of your early game problems are solved, especially in Fire Knight and Dark Fae. The A1 attacks 3 times at random, decreases the target's turn meter by 25% on each critical hit. That is a potential 75% turn meter decrease on the A1 for Fire Knight. On normal mode, can't be beat. A2 attacks all enemies 2 times. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing drop defense, small version, places a sleep debuff on targets for 1 turn under decreased defense. Great wave control. The drop defense is a nice to have. The A3 attacks 1 enemy, has a 30% chance of inflicting a critical hit, will ignore 50% of the target's defense. Sounds like it'll hit hard. The multiplier sucks. It hits like a wet noodle. Increases accuracy in faction crits by 50. Her turn meter control is unrivaled for epic A1s. Moving on to Undead, my personal pick, Gore Grab. Gore Grab, I believe, is the best overall undead epic. He does not have good base speed, but that's okay. He is the budget arbiter. The A1 has a 75% chance of removing a random buff. The A2 fills the turn meter of all allies by 15% and places big increase attack on all allies for 2 turns. The A3 revives any dead allies with 25% HP, then heals all allies by 25%. Heal will happen even if there are no dead allies. And then he's got a 23% arena speed aura. Fantastic epic. He carries me still in faction wars. Dark Elves, in my opinion, is the weakest faction in the game outside of free epics. But my choice is going to be Ryan the Conjurer. I think this is a fantastic epic. Accessible because it's like the second or third champ from Doom Tower normal in the secret rooms. So very easy to get your hands on if you do it consistently. The A1 has a 70% chance of placing block buffs. The A2 will fully buff strip and place weaken. I still don't have a AoE weaken on my account. I'm waiting to pull this guy. And then the A3 revives a dead ally with 50% HP and 50% turn meter. We'll then also place a block debuffs buff on them for 2 turns. We'll also revive Akoth the Seared and Euros the Soul Cage with 30% HP if they are on the same team and not the target of the skill. We'll then also fill their turn meter by 30% after reviving. If either Akoth or Euros are the target of the skill, that champion will be revived with 50% HP and 50% turn meter and a block debuff for 2 turns. Fantastic revive. Yes, it's single target, but it's a good one. And then if you're pairing it with Akoth and or Euros, it gets even better. Accuracy in all battles by 40. Great epic, especially for the faction that she's in. I couldn't tell the gender. There's no question for Knights Revenant. It's Rector Drath. A1, decrease attack. A2, heal. If they're not fully healed, places continuous heal. If they are fully healed, places perfect veil. Honestly, I wish that wasn't conditional. The A3, single target revive with 60% HP and 60% turn meter and perfect veil for 3 turns. Heals targets under veil and perfect veil at the start of their turn for 10% and then increases their resistance as well by 50. She's got resistance in Doom Tower by 55. Great base speed for an epic, and yes, she's fantastic. The dwarves, again, faction with no question, it's Geomancer, the ultimate anti-boss machine. Great for waves, great for bosses, you name it, he can do it as long as it doesn't say PvP. The A1's AoE has a chance of putting drop accuracy. He's got a buff strip on the A2, then an attack. Steals if the target is under an HP burn placed by this champion, and then will reset the cooldown of this skill by 2 turns if the target is killed while under an HP burn placed by this champion. And then he steals the turn meter of the target, places HP burn and weaken, which is great because if they're under a burn, his passive will reflect 15% of the damage all allies receive, 30% of his own, with a chance to do an extra 3% of the target's max HP, which is basically a free burn activation. Fantastic. He's my greatest source of damage in Chimera. Increases HP in all battles by 25%. Arguably one of the best epics in the game. For Shadowkin, I am actually going to go off the beaten path here and not choose Oboro, but overall, I'm going to go with Hotatsu. He carried me a lot in the early game, and I regret feeding him because I still run into situations to this day where I wish I had him. He's got an A1 leech. He's got an AoE decrease attack on the A2. He's got increased defense on all allies as well as continuous heals. And then on the passive, he will remove a random debuff from this champion at the start of each turn and will prioritize crowd control. It's on a 3-turn cooldown, but that's a great move for PvP and being the stun target for clan boss. He's got defense in all battles by 25%. Fantastic epic. I wish I still had him. And for Sylvan Watchers, overall use, I'm actually going to go with Ruella. Yes, she's 100% single target, but great base stats. A1, a triple hitter. Each hit has a 100% chance when booked of stealing 5% of the target's turn meter, so a 15% turn meter still A1. This A2, a triple hitter, each hit has a 70% chance of placing decreased defense, weaken, and decreased speed for 2 turns. Each hit. So it's practically a guarantee. It's on a 4-turn cooldown, yes, but with that base speed, she's going to get back around to it pretty quickly. Fantastic debuffer for Chimera. I've honestly considered building her just for that alone. She's also great for normal Fire Knight. On the A3, fills the turn meter of all allies by 20% and places increased crit rate on all allies for 2 turns. Books down to a 3-turn. We love champions with turn meter. That's a very solid turn meter fill for an epic. So yeah, Ruella will be my final choice. Guys, what do you think of the list? Let me know in the comments what you agree with, what you disagree with. I love doing this kind of content. If you've got any other lists that you'd like my opinion on, let me know in the comments. I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. Yeah, I've been Corrodor. Stay tanky.